Like from very young, I was told, I think at scripture union camps, Christian camps, or by preachers, that each of us has within us an emptiness that needs to be filled. And the Alpha Course, Holy Trinity Brompton in London and all around the world now, the Alpha Course always includes this as part of the package, part of the marketing of Christian faith, that the idea that we have a thirst or a hunger or a longing, and that the hunger is a good analogy for it, because if you're hungry, like there's a literal emptiness in you that you feel and you want to fill it with food. And they argue that there is a spiritual emptiness in each one of us, which also needs filling, a hole, and it's God-shaped. And you fill that emptiness with God. And if you don't fill that emptiness with God, you end up filling it with pleasures, become hedonic, pleasure-seeking. And you might fill it with all sorts of distractions and things that might seem good as well, like not just things that are obvious, like, I don't know, things that would be considered sins, but you might fill it with exercise or control or money or ambition, all of these things that we try, or friendship even, like things that seem positive, but if we use them to fill the void, then they will never fill it. It's a bottomless pit for everything except for God. That's the pitch, right? That I was given as a child, and I took as true. And what's interesting to me about that is that I took it as true that I had a void inside me, that there was a sense of absence or emptiness inside me as a child. And looking back, I don't think it's true. I don't think I ever had that. I think occasionally in life I do feel like there's an emptiness in me that is unfilled, but most of the time I don't feel like that at all. I don't feel that sense of something missing. But I was told I did, and I believed it, and so I filled that hole with God. And I was told that would work, and it did. I don't believe in God anymore, but Pascal, he said that there was a craving and a hopelessness inside us. That in every human, he says this is a universal experience, an emptiness, a craving inside us. And to quote Pascal, what else does this craving and this helplessness proclaim? But there was once in us a true happiness, of which all that now remains is the empty print and trace. This he tries in vain to fill with everything around him, seeking in things that are not there the help that he cannot find in those that are, though none can help, since this infinite abyss can be filled only with an infinite and immutable object, in other words, God himself. I do think there's some truth in that when we recognize that inside us there is a kind of emptiness, which is different, I think, from a void, we try to fill that. But what does that emptiness mean? What might we mean by that? Because void is one way, where there is something and there is a nothing, like because they define each other, don't they? There's only a hole where there's a hole in something. And in Buddhism, that's called Sunyata, emptiness. That we experience an emptiness of self, not an emptiness in ourselves. And we might experience that a little bit, and that's where we see there's a void. And so therefore in Buddhism, the job is not to try to fill the void with pleasure or ambition or good works or God. The idea is not to fill that emptiness, but actually to run the other way, to sit with and notice the emptiness and allow the emptiness to become everything. Allow awareness of the emptiness. When you take away our component parts, there is nothing left. There is an absence of thingness. We are, physics tells us, event as much as we are material. And we can describe ourselves as energy rather than matter. And to make peace with that might be a more sustainable solution than trying to fill something unfillable. So this emptiness, this sunyata in Buddhism, it doesn't mean non-existence, nor does it mean a hole within existence that needs filling, but rather everything that exists is fundamentally part of a bigger nothingness. Well, I think if we take this politically, it's not simply true of us, but it's true of institutions and organizations and unjust systems, that ultimately they are empty. They are nothing. And when we know that they are nothing, we can both mentally and politically begin to deconstruct them. We can only take apart the unjust structures when we recognize them for what they are, which is nothing. Empires, civilizations, systems, tyrants, none of them are forever. And none of them are of substance, really. They believe themselves to be strong and permanent, but they're deluding themselves, and we don't need to be deluded along with them. So we focus on, perhaps, the wrong thing when we try and fill the void inside us. We're chasing after something that isn't there and will never be there no matter how hard we chase. And in doing that, in chasing after the thing that isn't there and never will be there, we miss what is going on. Not the there-ness, but the happeningness. We all, I'm sure, as children remember stories of rainbows and leprechauns and chasing pots of gold at the end of the rainbow. But we also know there is no pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. And I remember as a child running after rainbows. I literally did this because I knew it wasn't true, but a bit of me thought, but what if it is? And I remember on my bike as a child, like chasing after a rainbow and thinking, wouldn't it be great if you could actually find the end of the rainbow? Because what if you could? And I did this a couple of times before I admitted that it was nonsense and I couldn't actually get to the end of the rainbow. Once you stop fighting the fact that you cannot get to the end of the rainbow, once you stop chasing after the pot of gold, what's left then is simply to enjoy the rainbow, to enjoy the event. And a rainbow is, of course, not a thing as such. There is no, you can't take a chunk of it. There is no single thing that is the rainbow. A bunch of things happen that make a rainbow appear to appear. And we are part of that, right? So there's the raindrops, each individual one. In the environments, there is the sunlight. There is our mind and our eye. And all of those things, and the distance between those things, all of those things, and all of those things combine together at the same time, critically, to create an event that is no thing, that is a rainbow. And you are a rainbow, right? You are not a thing, an object that exists. You are an event that is conditional upon a whole bunch of stuff around and about happening all at the same time. And all of those happenings create the illusion of you. And if you try and put substance to that, you miss the opportunity simply to enjoy the event that is you, rather than try and fill it with a pot of gold. And there's much more, I think, much more peace in that than any empty promises of being filled up. If you've enjoyed my meanderings and thoughts on emptiness and fullness and voids and holes, then please have a look at my page. And you can see more videos by me on stuff to do with Buddhism, social justice, spirituality and activism, atheism, agnosticism, all that kind of stuff. It's all there on my page. Have a look at it. You can click on my name below this video. Thanks.